Morning, everybody. It's fantastic to see so many people here this morning. I'm really excited about the day. My job is a nice, simple one today. It's to introduce you to the topic of drug repurposing and more importantly, to Findacure, and hopefully to set up a program which will begin to convince you that repurposing really is something that's beginning to drive research into rare diseases and something that every different rare disease stakeholder can engage with. So I'll start with the basic stuff. If you know us well, apologies for repetition. If you don't, please listen very carefully. We are Findacure. We're a rare disease charity based here in the UK. And we have a very simple vision, which is a world in which all rare diseases have treatments that have been made together with patients for patients. And patient centricity is really at the heart of what we're doing as an organisation. We want to work with those patients and patient groups to form, to grow, and to empower them to be really valid central partners into the development of new treatments, new treatment pathways, and care for rare conditions and rare patients. We truly believe that if you can have these collaborative projects that are fusing collaboration between patient groups, between industry, academics, that we're going to accelerate treatment development and care for everybody. And that any one group on their own are always going to struggle to get to the place that we need to get for the benefit of patients nice and quickly. So what we basically do is two major things. The first of those is to work with patient groups to empower them. And it's an important word, but sometimes a word I worry can sound a bit of a buzzword. What we mean by empowering patient groups is trying to help them do these different things. We want to help them get ready to be involved in research. We want to help them get the infrastructure in place, the knowledge in place, so they can engage really well with academics and with pharmaceutical companies. We want to help them build a charity. Many of these patient groups start as a Facebook group or a kitchen table organisation. We want them to grow into an official legal structure to help them really represent themselves in these kind of collaborative engagements. We want to help them find ways to support patients and families more effectively so they can be a really effective charity for that condition and a meaningful point of contact for the patient population. And crucially, in rare diseases, to help them raise awareness, partly about rare diseases in general, but hopefully about their specific condition as well. Alongside this work in empowerment, which we mostly do through a range of different training programs, we're really trying to help focus on building a rare disease community. And by that, I mean a community that involves everyone in this room. Patient organisations, academics, and also people from industry as well. Again, we think this is a key thing to help accelerate treatment development and care. So our conference today is an example of one of those projects. It's about building that community. Obviously, an aim today is to highlight excellence in the rare disease field, and also to highlight the potential of drug repurposing to deliver treatments to the patients who really need it. But equally important is the idea of creating opportunities for everyone in the room. We want to create opportunities for you to meet new people who are outside of your field. We want to see pharmaceutical company CEOs talking to patients and not worrying about it. We want to see professors stepping up and chatting to people in industry themselves. We want to see those barriers broken down. We want to give opportunities for people to share their work with the audience. And that's partly run through our lightning talk session later in the day, where delegates yourselves have proposed 5-minute talks to share with the audience here. We want to create opportunities to build a rare disease community, just to make sure you know everyone in this room and can share your experiences and realise that you're not on your own in that specific journey with your given rare condition, that there are many shared experiences across the diverse rare disease world. So really for us then, collaboration is absolutely key in advancing things in rare conditions, and it's about getting all of these different stakeholders involved together, working with one another. And I think all of these groups are represented in the room today. And hopefully, that will ultimately lead to an improved level of patient care and more effective treatments. And on that line, obviously, we have the topic of today, drug repurposing. Now, drug repurposing is an area we've been focused on at Findacure for a while, and it's a topic we believe really has huge potential to advance things for rare conditions. So what is it? Very simply, we can think about drug repurposing as recycling. It's taking a drug that's been approved for one condition, and hopefully running clinical trials to test its efficacy in a completely different condition. So ultimately, you get to a point where you have one drug with licenses for multiple indications or diseases. It's a simple process. And hopefully, it's great because you're working with something that you know. And this gives you the opportunity to deliver something more quickly and more cheaply. And when you're working in rare conditions, when you're working with those conditions where our knowledge gap is often quite high, it means you're hopefully having some advantages given to you by that knowledge of the drug if you don't have the similar matching knowledge for the condition. By doing repurposing, you eliminate de novo drug discovery, which is an exceptionally expensive thing to do, very time consuming, so again, speeding up and cheapening the process. You know something about the safety profile and the side effects of drug repurposing candidates. Now, if you're working with a generic drug, you also have a lot of information about a history of human use, and this is a huge potential pool of knowledge that you can tap into. Firstly, it can tell you about how that drug might react to different age groups, pediatric populations, adult populations, but also across a range of different diseases as well. And that gives you a really in-depth understanding of the drug itself. And that can obviously have a big benefit of helping you to reduce your requirements for early-stage clinical trials that are assessing the safety of the drug itself. They can allow you, hopefully, to use some of that existing data to represent your safety profile. You also know about the pathways of action of the condition, of the drug itself, and that really gives you a nice insight into how certain drugs might be useful for certain conditions. So rather than doing a huge drug screen of thousands of different compounds, you can intelligently select drugs that you know might function and might be effective with your disease of interest. Again, really reducing the number of assays you have to run, the effort you have to go to identify things that have potential for your condition. So all of this means that we think repurposing has huge potential. It's really an ideal pathway for patient group-led collaborations and academic group-led collaborations, and we'll see some examples of that throughout the day. But it's also got huge potential within industry as well, and we think it can create some really interesting new commercial opportunities within industry, particularly if you look at finding new uses for assets that have been shelved for various reasons, possibly because they're not really looking commercially viable for one particular disease target, or possibly because they're not quite showing the efficacy you would expect. And we're seeing lots of groups beginning to use repurposing for this particular role. So what I'm going to talk about now is an example of a drug repurposing trial that we're aware of and involved with at Findacure, which is called MCDS therapy. And this is a really nice example of an academic-led repurposing trial, which is really focusing on trying to develop a new treatment for an ultra-rare bone condition. So what is MCDS? Obviously, it's metaphyseal chondrodysplasia type Schmid, which is very easy to say and deeply meaningful. Essentially, it's a rare bone condition that leads to short stature. It leads to disproportionately short limbs. But what we're seeing in particular is bowing of the long bones here and flaring at the end of the long bones. And this particular feature really leads to some difficult joint pains for the patients, unusual gaits, and they can both really limit the quality of life. It's caused by a mutation in collagen 10. And there's been a lot of work going on preclinically in the background to identify the underlying mechanism of this disease. And all of this work kind of led to the point where they identified the mechanism, but also found a drug that they thought could benefit patients. And that drug was a generic drug named carbamazepine. It's been shown to restore bone growth, actually, in a model mouse for MCDS. So it shows that you can actually reduce this curvature phenotype, reduce the distortion, particularly in the pelvis of the mice, and potentially reduce the negative side effects to patients. So MCDS therapy is a collaboration that is aiming to trial this drug in humans for the first time ever, really taking it right from that preclinical work through to the clinic and having the preclinical team engaged. In fact, there's a really big collaboration involved. This is a big theme in repurposing. It's an international clinical trial with collaborators including academic institutions like Newcastle University. We've got health trusts, guys at St Thomas's are involved. We've got centres across Europe, Paris, Antwerp, Bologna, all involved. We've also got a German biotech company working in there. Findacure are involved in this project to help with communication and dissemination, and even a collaborator out in Australia trying to help set up this clinical trial. And here you can see the team gathering at the first meeting last year. This project is EU funded as well, which is a fantastic opportunity. It means there's a good amount of money backing this type of clinical trial to try and drive it through to the clinic. And the aims are quite simple but quite bold. MCS therapy really is aiming to deliver a low-cost treatment for a really rare skeletal condition, and the aim is very much to alleviate that pain and both bone malformation in patients. And it's about a collaborative structure of scientists coming together to do this and make sure we have the people who did that preclinical work driving it right through into the clinic. The hope is to kind of pioneer an academic drug repurposing pathway to really show that we can deliver a transformative treatment for a rare disease patient population right from bench to bedside. And hopefully that will be something of a new paradigm. It will inspire many other academics out there to try and drive this through in this manner. And it's something we're very excited about. I'm working on it for a little while now. Right at the start of the process, scientific advice from the EMA was received, and some of you were here last year would have heard Mike Briggs talk a bit about the work involved there. We've now been establishing the full detailed protocol, which is there and ethically approved. We've been looking quite in depth actually at how a UK health trust can act as a sponsor for an international clinical trial. And that's been quite an interesting learning process for the trust involved, but that's now all lined up, helping with many different sites across Europe. And we've been working a lot on preparing patient-friendly information sheets to explain this condition, particularly those that are suitable for paediatric populations. And we've also launched our online systems, Twitter, Facebook, website, to try and disseminate the information that's going on. So we're approaching the initial recruitment in the UK for this trial now, which is a really exciting time. And we'll hopefully next year get some more updates to see how things are progressing. So this is an example, hopefully, of a way that repurposing can be used to drive treatments to patients in an unusual context. And today's programme really is aiming to highlight those different things. We've got a lot of really exciting talks and interesting talks that are focusing on collaborations, and I really want to drive that point home. We're going to open, after myself, with a talk from both Reverse Rett and the CEO of Rett UK, focusing on patient group engagement and involvement in a clinical trial, the first clinical trial, in fact, for Rett syndrome, and how they've been working with industry to drive this forward, which is a fantastic model. We're going to hear from Professor Ranganath, who's been working on AKU for many years now, and they're now at the point where they've closed their clinical trial, their phase 3, and are hoping for results over this year. And he's going to talk about his work both on that trial, but also working at an NHS commissioned specialist centre for alkaptonuria and prescribing a drug off-label. And as you can see, the programme really is stepping through a whole range of collaborations. We have clear therapy talked about next, so looking at different ways you can identify drug repurposing opportunities and how you can harness AI to identify new drugs, new potential treatments for your rare conditions. Stepping through to look at some incentives for off-label and off-patent medicines, before then looking a lot more at the patient impact of rare conditions, both with our talk from Janet and Catherine at Santhera and how repurposing is helping Duchenne patients, and then finally with a talk from Suzanne, who's a patient living with PNH. This is a really interesting case where the drug was repositioned or repurposed way before it reached market into a rare disease and has now led to an exceptionally successful drug, one we'll all know about, that's had huge transformative impacts on the patient population. So we really think there's a lot of cases here that show what is being done and how it can be done, and I hope you'll enjoy the programme and stick with us through the day. Those are the main things I want to say. Thank you for paying attention. Please enjoy the conference. Ask lots of questions, get involved. We want to see as much engagement as we can, tweets, write some signs outside about why you care about Rare Disease Day and drug repurposing. And yeah, please engage with us. Thank you so much for coming.